What if Deku joined Team JPDE? Chapter 71. Summerlight. How long do you think you can fall for? Ruby asked.
Excuse me, David asked.
We've been falling for a while now.
I don't think you're supposed to be able to.
Because of physics and stuff, Ruby said.
What kind of conversation is that? David asked.
Well, I don't see you coming up with anything better, Mr. Ruby said.
Shut up.
I'm thinking, David said.
About what? Ruby asked.
How to survive our landing, David said.
Weren't you all resigned your fate and stuff? Ruby asked.
Well, too bad someone went and gave me hope just as the mountain came falling on top of us and the floor gave way under our feet, David said.
Ruby giggled.
I gave you hope, Ruby said.
David sighed.
Anyway. Is it just me or are we starting to fall more slowly? David asked.
Oh my gods, then it wasn't just me.
We are, Ruby said.
But aren't you supposed to gain speed as you fall? David asked.
Freaking gravity. How does it work?
And why didn't I pay attention in physics class? Ruby said.
Are we stopping right now? David asked.
We are.
What? Ruby said.
The two were now not falling anymore.
Alright, so I guess we're not falling to our death anymore, David said.
Somehow.
No, Ruby said.
Well, that's a start.
Now, what do you think?
Should we climb back up? David asked.
Don't see any other way.
But are you sure you can climb?
You were pretty battered up, Ruby said.
Oh.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think I can feel my muscle pain, to start with, David said.
And how do you think we're going to do that? Deku asked.
Deku, David and Ruby yelled.
Hey guys, glad you could join the party, Deku said.
I'm so glad to see you're okay.
When David said, Ruby said.
You really think a mountain could take me out? Deku asked.
No, Ruby said.
David's stomach then growled.
Sounds like someone is hungry.
Want a snack? Ruby asked.
You carry snacks on yourself at all times? David asked.
Yup.
You never know when hunger might strike.
You need a defense, Ruby said.
I also keep snacks on me, but they're not strawberry flavored, Deku said.
David laughed.
To those who designed both of your clothes with all those pockets need medals, David said.
I know, right?
Way I hear it, it was a friend of Dad.
He was, I think from Atlas, Ruby said.
Mistral, actually, a voice said.
Oh, right. Mistral. Thanks, David, Ruby said.
Wait. How did you know? Ruby asked.
Ruby, that wasn't me, David said.
What do you mean it wasn't you? Ruby said.
Do I sound like a grown woman to you? David asked.
When screaming you do, Deku said.
Hey, David said.
But who could have said that?
It's only the three of us here, Ruby said.
Oh, so the two of you can't see the big lady? Deku asked.
What?
What big lady? David and Ruby asked.
That big lady, Deku said, pointing. David and Ruby turned around.
Don't call me big lady, young man.
Makes it sound like I'm fat.
And how rude of you two to ignore the light show I'm putting on for you, the voice said.
Before them they saw a woman all in white with a golden rose brooch. She also had the same hair as Ruby.
Sorry about implying that you were fat, Mrs. Deku said.
Mom, Ruby yelled.
Hi, Ruby.
You've grown, Summer said.
You're
Summer Rose, David asked.
And hi, David.
Nice to meet you.
We've been keeping tabs on you, too, Summer said.
Keeping
tabs?
Who's you? David asked.
One is my mom, Ruby said.
Honey, I know it's.
Honestly.
This must be one of the greatest and at the same time most confusing moments of your entire life, but I'm gonna need you to stop trying to butterfly kick towards me in the dark void of remnants. Crust, okay, Summer said. What? David and Ruby exclaimed. I had that same reaction, Deku said. I'll explain in layman's terms. You all fell a very long way and now you're so close to the center of the planet that gravity no longer applies. Also, you'd be cooking up or suffocating if it weren't from me, Summer said. Gravity, no longer applies? David asked. Yeah. Gravity is the force of attraction between masses. And since gravity always wants to bring things to its center of mass, and since we are now at the center of Remnant, we experience a zero-G effect, Deku said. Ah. My brains hurts. Deku, why do you hurt me so? Ruby asked. Ruby. It's simple physics. And something you should know considering your semblance, Deku said. Ruby said. I'm saying you can abuse physics to go faster, Deku said. Oh. Cool, Ruby said. You're taking this in stride, aren't you? David said. Says the Rockman, Ruby said. That's my goal. Alright, moving on, nice job breaking it, David. We are most displeased, Summer said. David said. But, again, that's what happens when your only source of information about this whole mess is an existence running on fumes. Poor Flame. So, I'm here for 2 things. Well, I was here for 3, but I can no longer track the boss back in its confinement. Anyway, I'm here to save the 3 of you and set the record straight, Summer said. Really? Ruby asked. Really? Summer asked. Just like that? David asked. Just like that, Summer said. Well then, Ruby goes first, Deku said. Really? Ruby asked. Ruby, this is your mom. You've never seen her in your life. Of course you got precedence, David said. Oh, that's sweet, Summer said. Deku. David. Thank you, but it's less what I want to know and more what I want to do, Ruby said. Do? Summer asked. Mom, I wanna hug you. I want to cry. I want to bring you back home to Dad and Young. I want to take so many pictures together that I will never, ever forget your face again. But yes, there are some questions, like, Mom, where are you? Why haven't you come back to us? Ruby asked. First of all, let me tell you that I'm fine. I cannot come back home, but I'm also in no danger of dying, Summer said. Where? Why? Ruby asked. I can't tell you that. Because you'd most definitely hurry here before being ready trying to rescue me and get yourself killed, Summer said. Ruby said. Yeah, she'd probably do it, David said. Well, rich coming from the guy who set the ancient god free, Summer said. So? He was telling the truth, David said. You did what? And Mom, you said. Before I'm ready, Ruby asked. Oh, you noticed that little part? Yes, honey. I want you to rescue me. Well, actually, I need you to rescue me. Eventually, Summer said. How? Tell me how, Ruby asked. Way too early for that, Ruby. You need to mature as a hunter and as warrior of the Silver Eyes, first. And more staring. Look, let's go in order, alright? I think it's better if I tell you the story instead of letting you ask questions. I can't keep you down here forever and there are people waiting for you, Summer said. Ruby gasped. Ruby, what the hell was that? Deku asked. Oh, nothing much. I guess she just realized she's about to get her very first story time with Mom, Summer said. Yes, Ruby yelled. How are the 2 of you acting so nonchalantly about everything? David asked. It's the rose genes, David. You're gonna have to get used to it, Summer said. Oh my gods, we have genes? Ruby asked. How much of basic schooling did you miss, Ruby? Everyone has genes. Don't tell me you missed the birds and the bees talk, Deku asked. What? Ruby asked. Sex education, Ruby Summer said. Oh, I understand now. Don't worry Mom, Young, Deku and David taught me, Ruby said. Deku and David blushed. That's not the same thing, David said. Is it not, Ruby asked. No it isn't, honey. And don't look so embarrassed, you two. I already know about your activities and relationship, Summer said. You were watching, the three asked. I said I was keeping tabs. Moving on. Do you remember that lesson you have with your professor about Remnant? About the theory of it being alive, Summer asked. Yes. And considering you're bringing this up, you're going to tell us that it's actually true, Deku said. Indeed. Remnant has a will, a life force and even an aura of its own. And while it was still forming, eons ago. The boss arrived, Summer said. Mom, when you say that he's a god, do you mean, Ruby asked. Yes. He's the same race as the gods of light and darkness, with a different purpose. The two brothers travel the cosmos, filling newly formed worlds with their creations, Summer said. Wait. Does that mean the brothers created Earth, Deku asked. I'm unsure. Earth seems to have a long history of existence and life that has not existed on Remnant. But Remnant has also had a long history. Perhaps the brothers did create Earth, or maybe not. Only the brothers know, Summer said. I see. Thanks for indulging me, Deku said. No problem. Now back to the topic at hand. The boss traveled around to still forming worlds to harvest them for energy, Summer said. Then how, David asked. He got too greedy. He miscalculated. Remnant is a world strong in life, a rich banquet for him. If it hadn't already developed a will. That's how it became a prison instead of nourishment. The predator became the prey. Remnant absorbed the boss into its core, dissipating and absorbing all of its power, Summer said. Then the flame, David asked. It's a piece of the boss's original power, which Remnant gave life and purpose, Summer said. And now this boss wants it back. Which is why it attacked the thingy inside David, Ruby said. Which in turn set in motion all the events that have led us here. Imagine my surprise when I was asked to distract myself from my current purpose to come here. But I was too late to trap him in that crystal again, Summer said. So I damned the entire world, David asked. You would think so, but it doesn't look like it. Whatever the boss wants, it doesn't seem to be revenge. And even if he wanted to, the other three pieces are well protected, and without his full power, he will never be able to carry it out. So you have time, Summer said. Time? For what, Ruby asked. Well, he's the one who screwed up. Of course, he's got to be the one to take responsibility for it and fix it, Summer said. Why? Why would you trust the person who screwed it all up in the first place to fix it, David asked. 2 reasons. First, I can't do it. I'm occupied with something else, at the moment, Summer said. And reason 2, Ruby asked. Reason 2, there's literally no one else I can ask but you three and your friends, Ruby. Because there's literally only 5 people on this world who can track the boss again or kill him for good, including me, Summer said. Who are the other 4, Deku asked. 1 is Ruby. Your friends Penny and Seal. And finally, you, Summer said. Me, Deku asked. Yes. But not at the moment, and neither can the others. But you all have great potential to become very strong, especially you, Summer said. I understand why Deku, Penny and Seal can stop the boss, but how can I, Ruby asked. Ruby. Your silver eyes are not just for show. They're much, much more. They symbolize your hidden power. The heritage of the Silver Warriors, Summer said. So you're telling me that because of me, now people I care about are in the line of fire, David said. Yes. The boss doesn't know about it right now. But he will, Summer said. There's no way in hell I'm letting them do this alone, David said. I know. Which is why you're going to take responsibility for this and protect them at all costs from all dangers. All right, Rock Boy Summer said. Mom, I don't know about trapping or killing gods, but this power you're talking about, if I master it. Can I bring you back home, Ruby asked. Yes. You can, Summer said. Tell us what we need to do, Deku asked. Survive. Grow stronger. Protect them. And when the time is right, go after the boss. As for you, Ruby, once you graduate from Beacon, I want you to seek out Maria Calavra, Summer said. Maria Calavra, Ruby said. You say to grow strong, but how much time do we have, David asked. Hey. Honestly. You have at least a few years, Summer said. Years? Deku asked. Yes. Let's just say that Howard and the boss made more enemies than they should have. But they don't know that yet. Okay, enough talking. Time to go, Summer said. Oh my gods, you're right. Young is gonna be worried sick, Ruby said. Yeah, I can only imagine what they must be thinking, right now, David said. Well, now. I thought you'd oppose a little more resistance. You don't want to know more, Summer asked. Of course we do. But you said there's no more time. Also, I have to go tell Young about you. And I have to go start training, Ruby said. Also, honestly, with everything that's happened in the last few months, I've grown tired of half-truths and I don't trust as easily any longer, but I think I can at least trust you, Summer, David said. And why is that, Summer asked. Because you're your daughter's mother, David said. Yes. I most certainly am, Summer said. Oh, you're gonna make me blush. I'm blushing, Ruby said. Alright, you've got a choice now, make it count. Do you want to go back the boring way or the awesome way, Summer asked. Ruby gasped. Awesome. Most definitely awesome, Ruby said. David sighed. Awesome, I guess. Deku, David asked. You really think I'm going back the boring way? Hell no. But I need to finish talking with Mrs. Rose, Deku said. Oh right, sorry dear, I completely forgot, Summer said. Forgot about what? What were you two talking about, Ruby asked. Going home, Deku said. Ruby paused for a moment, a bit confused, but then understood. Oh, Ruby said. Really? She knows how to send you home, David asked. It's more like a theory. But if we keep delaying, we won't have time. Now, David, I'm going to need your help to get you and Ruby out. Don't worry about Izuku. He will be able to get out on his own, Summer said. Okay. But how can I help, David asked. Back on the surface, everyone was mourning the loss of Ruby, David and Izuku. They had all moved away from the mines and to the lake in the center of Peak. But as they mourned, they began to feel a rumble beneath them. David and Ruby came flying out of the lake. Ruby was holding on to David for dear life, whilst David was enjoying the experience. David, Ruby said. Ruby, David said. Mama didn't give us a landing strategy, Ruby yelled. I know, David yelled. David and Ruby screamed as they began to fall back down towards Peak. Suddenly they were pulled further up into the air. Whoops. Guess I went a bit overboard with my exit, Deku said. David and Ruby opened their eyes. They were being carried by Deku in his arms. As they started to fall back down, they noticed something new. Deku was wearing a white cloak. Specifically, Summer's white cloak. Why do you have my mother's cloak? Ruby asked. Funny story about that, Deku said. What does that mean? David asked. She gave it to me after she, Deku said. After she what? Ruby asked. After she kissed me, Deku admitted. She what David and Ruby yelled. Just after David and Ruby had rocketed up towards the surface. So, how do I get Deku said, turning back to Summer, but he was cut off. Summer had planted her lips on his. Deku's face went flush in embarrassment. Summer then pulled back. Why? Why did you? Just kiss me, Deku asked, stuttering. We don't have the time to talk anymore, at least here, Summer said. Huh? But where else can we talk, Deku asked. In your subconscious, of course. You're no stranger to others in your mind, so I decided to move in. I hope you don't mind, Summer said. Not at all. I think Nana would love to have another woman to talk to. But was the kiss really necessary, Deku asked. It was a thank you for looking after my daughters, and I ask you keep doing so, Summer said. Of course I will, Deku said. Thank you, Summer said. Summer then removed her cloak and put it over Deku. You best get going now, Ruby and David don't have a landing strategy. I'll give you a hand as well, Summer said. Right, thank you. And Summer, Deku said. Yes dear, Summer questioned. I swear on my life that I will make sure you are rescued in one piece. You have my word, Deku said. Summer smiled. Good luck, then, Summer said. Deku then soared up to Remnant's surface. After explaining what happened, Deku slowly floated back down to the ground. How? Why? Evelyn yelled. Why what? Deku asked. Last we checked you died under a mountain. Now we see you three burst out of the lake, Young yelled. What the hell happened down there? Titania asked. David, Izuku, Ruby. I'm so glad, Penny cried. Well, when the mountain fell, the ground opened, Ruby said. We fell for a pretty long time. And then David said. And then they joined me, as I had fallen before them, and someone else who was down there, Deku said. Ruby then began to cry. Young. Ruby said. What is it? Ruby Young asked. Mom, Ruby said. What? Young asked. I've met Mom, Young. I've really met her, Ruby cried. Wait, what? But she's dead, Young said. Oh, she's certainly alive. How do you think I got this cloak? Deku asked. Everyone else then finally registered the cloak. What the fuck? Young yelled. Ruby then explained what happened. Are you sure you didn't just hallucinate it? Ruby Blake asked. Except me and David can confirm everything. Would be a bit weird if we all had the same identical hallucination, Deku said. And it also wouldn't explain how they survived and what happened in the water. And speaking of which, what the hell happened in the water? Jack asked. Summer is alive, Bella said. Well, in a few words. That was Summer giving me some of her aura, Ruby sharing her semblance and aura with me. And the final step of my semblance, according to her, David said. The final step of your semblance? Jack asked. That's what Mom said, yes. I don't know exactly what it did to us, but it felt like my own semblance, except it was like a gajillion times stronger, Ruby said. Strong enough to literally overcome the speed of an underground water source, its pressure, surface pressure, and gravity long enough to raise that high, Peach said. I guess, David said. And Izuku, you were able to double that speed. You caused all of the water to leave the lake for a few moments, Peach said. I did. Cool. Wait. I must have drenched you all. I'm so sorry, Deku said. No worries. We were able to avoid the splashdown. So don't worry, and could you possibly do it again? Peach asked. Mom, Titania said. Titania then pulled Peach away. I guess the math got to the professor's head. Anyway, if what she said is true, Jack said. What? Of course it is, Ruby yelled. Alright. Then we finally got a lucky break if it's really going to be a long time before anything else happens with the boss. The part about further enemies in particular gives me assurance that they will be occupied, Jack said. It has something to do with me, doesn't it? Janara asked. I can't think of anything with enough power and motive. Whatever the reason, it's tied to your creation and the enemy, Amber said. That sounds like a lovely story, but we've got enough to tell Dad as it is, Young said. Oh my gods, yes. Dad. We've got to call him right now, Ruby said. True, but let me begin, alright, Young said. What? No. I want to be the one to give him the news, Ruby said. With a side of a heart attack. I know from experience. Deku, come help me convince Dad without giving him a heart attack, Young yelled. Okay, Deku said. Hold on a minute, mister. I have a burning question for you. Why are you floating? Weiss asked. Deku then noticed that he hadn't stopped floating in the air. I've also been wondering that, Blake said. Now that you mention it, it is weird. How are you floating? Young asked. I guess I should tell the rest of you about who I actually am, Deku said. And what does that mean? Weiss asked. And does that mean the others know? Blake asked. Yep, you three are the only ones who don't know, Deku said. Wait, so Ruby knows? Ruby, what is he keeping from us? Young asked. He's from another world, Ruby said. What? The three yelled. The others chuckled. I'm extremely disappointed in you, David, Jack said. David's face fell. All of this could have been avoided if you hadn't jumped the gun and acted on a hunch. I'm glad we're all okay, but the only reason that happened is because of dumb luck, Jack said. Well. Also because he stayed behind, truth tell, Janara said. I know. And I doubt I can dole out any harsher punishment than what must be going through your head right now. Just. Partner, how can I trust you ever again after this? Jack asked. Jack then walked away. Penny and Evelyn were standing a few feet away. I want to go to him, Penny said. Me too. We can't. Or you'll ruin it, Evelyn said. Over with Bella and Thilla. Bella. What's wrong? Thilla asked. Summer. Is alive, Bella said. Yes, Thilla said. But she needs help. Help only Ruby can provide. But she's not ready yet. She can't even look for her. And who knows how long that is going to take, if they had already been looking for her with no success, Bella said. They were probably looking for a body, Thilla said. Yes. They probably were, Bella said. Bella, your soul, Thilla said. Reason more to hit the road. Maybe we'll chance on an alternative along the way, Bella said. Together, then, Thilla said. I wouldn't have it any other way, Bella said. Just before everyone boarded the bullhead back to Beacon. Jack was out on the wall of peak looking over the camp and everyone down there. Deku then stepped out onto the balcony she was on. Oh, hey Jack, Deku said. Hey Izuku, managed to finally get away from Team RWBY? Jack asked. Yeah, Ruby and Young are now calling their father, while Weiss and Blake are taking time to process the truth, Deku said. I see, Jack said. The two stared into the distance. Do you think I was too harsh on David? Jack asked. Perhaps, but being harsher is better than being too soft on him. Remember, he's only about 5.5 months old, he doesn't have the experience of life like we do. They played him like a fool. They used his desire to end this and go back to a normal life with the ones who he loves are safe and sound. Wouldn't you want the same thing? Deku asked. Yeah, I would. I still wish I could have done something back then, Jack said. Moving on, what happened down in the mines? Deku asked. I froze, Jack said. You froze? Deku questioned. Yeah. I've never seen you so angry, and seeing you at 100% it was terrifying to see, more terrifying than any grim I have ever encountered, Jack said. That's a good thing to hear, Deku said. How so, Jack asked. Well, if I'm more terrifying than any grim, then all you need to do is get used to me like that, and then you can face any grim in the future without fear, Deku said. Jack laughed. Is that my punishment, Jack asked. No. This is, Deku said. Deku then started to tickle Jack. Hey. Why? Why are you tickling me, Jack asked, between laughs. To get rid of that gloomy mood you have, Deku said. Well, it's gone now. So stop, Jack said. Nope, Deku said. Then take this, Jack said, starting to tickle Deku back. The two started roughhousing until Jack ended up on top of Deku. The two looked into each other's eyes whilst blushing and breathing heavily. Evelyn then came round the corner to see Deku and Jack looking out into the distance. Hey guys. The bullhead will be coming into land soon, Evelyn said. Okay. Thanks, Evelyn, Jack said, quickly walking away. We'll take our seat now, Deku said, doing the same. Evelyn stared as they left. She then smirked, realizing that something had happened. It's only a matter of time, Evelyn sang. Evelyn then went to join everyone on the bullhead. A while later the bullhead landed back to Beacon, finally returning home after such an eventful day. Ruby, young, what? What you're saying? It's impossible, Tai said. Dad, Ruby said. When she died, Crow, he was there, and Tai said. But they never found her body, did they? Ruby asked. No, but please, don't do this to me, not after all these years, Tai said. Dad, she told me something about my silver eyes. And she said she'll need my help to come back home. That's something you never told me, and young. And you know Uncle Crow didn't either, otherwise I would have been boasting about my awesome powers and trying to activate them by squinting my eyes hard enough. So, who else would ever know and have a motive to tell me? Also, the pictures I sent you. Where else do you think the cloak and brooch came from? Ruby asked. Summer is. Oh gods, Tai choked. Glinda was listening in and absolutely shocked to hear that Summer was alive. I think I need a drink. And possibly a shag, Glinda said. Amber and Peach were surprised by what Glinda said. I know what I said and I stand by it, Glinda yelled. Peach smiled. That can be arranged. Amber, if you could please, Peach asked. It'll be my pleasure, Amber said. Amber then disappeared. So, what are you going to do with Peach now? Deku asked. Why are you asking me? Janara asked. Well, the boss is gone, so it's pretty much your city, isn't it? I mean, you've been taking care of it for so long, Titania said. Yeah, but that was all a trick, wasn't it? I really have no idea. I mean, just protecting it for the sake of protecting it is useless, Janara said. Hence the question. Are you going to do anything with it? Deku asked. I don't know, Janara said. Over with Penny, David, Jack, Bella and Thilla. So, you're leaving? Jack asked. Yeah, Bella said. It's probably better for everyone, Thilla said. But you're rid of them for good now. I hoped, Jack said. Hey, Mom, I'm your daughter. No, that's just my body that now belongs to someone else. Also, she goes crazy on a regular basis, Thilla said. When you put it like that, Jack said. Still, you shouldn't do it alone, Penny said. Can't do it any other way. Not like you can leave Beacon. You've got Amber to think about, Thilla said. You've got the headmistress on your side now, but still, with Ozpin and everything else, our presence would just cause more trouble than it's really worth. You can't protect everyone from everything all the time, Bella said. And David asked. And Bella asked. Those are all well and good reasons, but they are not really enough for us to let you go comfortably when your mind's deteriorating again. We can search for an alternative together, later. We could hide you from the headmaster in Peak, David said. I don't want you to see me like that ever again, Bella said. That's that. We'll keep in touch when we can, but, for the most part, we'll try and keep underground, Thilla said. Be careful, okay? And don't you dare die on me, Jack said. On us. Just when we could be friends, Penny said. We'll be, I promise, and please don't tell Ruby, Bella said. Understood. Goodbye, Thilla. Bella, Penny said. Just be careful, out there. And come back soon, David said. We'll come back when we're successful, Thilla said. And Big Brother, when I come back, could we please go on another date, Bella asked. As many as you want, David said. Bella and Thilla then left. And that's that. So what's next on the timetable, Deku said. Amber, of course. We need to help her, Jack said. We need more time to do that, though. So we need to not get expelled, David said. Also, there's the whole developing situation with Cinderfall, Penny said. There's also finding out how I can get home before it's too late, Deku said. But before we have to deal with what's coming up in 2 weeks. The Vital Festival opening dance, Evelyn said. They all looked and stared at Evelyn. Look, someone had to lighten the mood here. Can we just relax for a bit after the crazy day we've just had, Evelyn asked. I guess so. It'll be nice to relax for a change and just have some fun, Deku said. Well, if you want some fun. Miss Goodwitch has invited all of us to come join her for a drink. And a shag, Evelyn said. What, the others yelled. You heard me, Evelyn said. Wait. When you say all of us, do you mean, David asked, turning around. They looked to see all members of Team RWBY blushing, and Titania with Amber, blushing as well. Yep, Evelyn said. Oh my, Penny said. Come on now. It's rude to keep girls waiting, Evelyn said, pushing Penny, David and Deku towards them. That invite also extends to you too, Jackie. Just think about the hot girls and the 2 MILFs you can play with. And you can finally confront your feelings for Aiju, Evelyn whispered. No. No thanks, Jack said. Your loss, Evelyn said. Evelyn then went to join the others. Jack watched her go and then looked at Deku. Her face went flush and she turned away. Gods damn it, Evelyn, Jack said. Jack then went to her team's room. Titania went to take Janara home before going to meet back up with the others who were going to Glinda's room. Jack was currently lying in bed completely awake. Despite the fact that their room was finally quiet for once, she could not sleep. Bitch, why the fuck did you say no? Jack's inner thoughts asked. I don't know, Jack thought. Jack then got out of bed and went over to Evelyn's drawer. She grabbed something from it and went back to her bed, undressing and leaving her nightwear on the floor as she went. Ijuku, Jack moaned. End of chapter 71.